Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here, welcome back to the channel for another update on Solana. So we've got a ton of data to discuss in today's video, new charts, new divergences, and an update on on-chain where the number of new addresses on Solana is rocketing up almost to its all-time highs. So what is this going to mean for the price? Let's find out in the chart. Starting off on the lower time frames on the 4 hour, I want to clear up these indicators so we can just focus on the technical structure. As you can see, Solana right now on the 4 hour time frame is in this descending wedge formation. Now typically these have a higher likelihood of breaking bullish, and also as you can see, the price action on the 4 hour time frame has been making lows, higher lows, higher lows, while the oscillator has been making lows and lower lows. Now what this means from a divergence perspective, when the price action is making higher lows but the oscillator is making lower lows, this is actually hidden bullish divergence. So could Solana see a bounce to the upside? Well, if we do come over to the EMA ribbons, you can obviously see everything is quite bearish right now. This 4 hour bullish divergence is looking a little bit weak. You would have really wanted to see a stronger bounce from this touch point over on the low here. We are kind of just grinding against this right now. You can see the 4 hour MFI is trying to turn up, but the price action is looking very weak, and everything is very hingent on what happens with Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin is obviously getting crushed underneath this macro 28k resistance, and it looks like it's coming down once again to the 200-week moving average at 26,200. So all in all, for Solana, I don't potentially think that this 4 hour bullish divergence is going to have a major impact on the price. And really, you need to see the price action hold up above $20.06. If you start to see Solana fall beneath this $20.06, then this bullish divergence is just going to get weaker and weaker and weaker. However, over the weekend, if Bitcoin manages to hold up, I can potentially foresee a slight bounce in Solana. I wouldn't potentially see Solana getting higher than $21, where the long-term moving average on the EMA ribbons kind of caps it out to the downside. So with that being said, at least on the 4 hour, things are looking pretty neutral. Like I said, if you start falling beneath this $20.06 region, this divergence is just going to get weaker and weaker and weaker, and we will likely fall to the downside. Now, one of the major reasons why I'm a little bit hesitant to be bullish while we are in this 4 hour falling wedge, which is a bullish formation, while we are forming this hidden bullish divergence, which is of course bullish, this should be a perfect storm to break to the upside, right? Well, if we come over to our slightly higher time frames, number one, before we look at the technicals, daily stochastic RSI, one interesting thing that I want to highlight is you do have a nasty downtrend in the price right now. What you can see is stochastic topped out right here, price rocketed to the downside. Stochastic had a double top here, so we had one top right here, according to this stock top, we had another top here, according to this stock top, we broke down, and as you can see, we just literally triple topped on the stochastic RSI, and we're heading back down, and you can see this triple top in the stock is actually, you know, a triple top over in the price, and also, of course, we had this top all the way up here. So, you know, in general, in the higher time frames on the daily, and as we'll discuss on the weekly, it is possible, of course, to get a slight bounce. $21, in my opinion, if we follow through with this divergence, is really the cap, because on the daily and the weekly, things are leaning a little bit more bearish to the downside. So now we've discussed the stock, let's get rid of this. I also do want to highlight on the 4 hour time frame, while I do remember, the most amount of liquidity, at least eyeballing in the lower time frames, that we can grab is down here at this region. Now, let me come over and increase the caption size over on the Lux algo. So as you can see, we've got about 591,000 worth of Solana in trap liquidity round about this low down here. So it would be interesting, you know, like I said, we do have this 4 hour bullish divergence, but we're looking pretty weak. We're getting capped underneath the 4 hour EMA ribbons. And in general, if you're a market maker, you're obviously going to want to move to the areas where the most amount of liquidity is. Most of these previous liquidity pockets have been grabbed and taken, so this is the most significant one to keep your eyes on in the immediate short term. So I do expect in the lower time frames Solana to potentially have a short-term bounce over the weekend, either that or just some sideways chop before breaking back down and taking out the lows at $19.80. That is of course the 4 hour time frame, not the bear market lows. If we do zoom out a little bit further from there, you can see there is also tons of liquidity 2.6, 2.7 million, around $16. And as we'll discuss, now we dive into this daily chart, there's quite a lot of reasons why we should be moving down from here. If we do look at this on, no, this is a lot better characterized on the daily time frame. You can see we've obviously quite recently had this massive run up to the upside. We've looked at this in a few different ways. We've talked about this being a BART pattern, which obviously does have a price target all the way back down at the lows at $8. We also have formed a half diamond top formation, which we did discuss in our most recent Solana video, where we discussed that there was a huge warning about 2 weeks ago. You can see obviously on the weekly time frame we've started to move down a little bit since that video, about 5 or 6%, but nothing major. We've only really just kind of solidified this breakdown to the downside of the half diamond top. And also, if we do zoom in, you can potentially see we might be forming a bearish flag. Now, like I said, on the 4-hour time frame, it is somewhat possible, if we do kind of chop sideways over the weekend, that this bullish divergence does allow us to, kind of chop around a little bit. Like I said, $21 is really the cap. It would be interesting to see that push back up to 21, because then this bear flag would be much better fully formed, and I can start really taking the price target of this seriously. Right now, this is, not really fully developed in my opinion. Can we break down from here? Of course. If we do, price target's down at $16.47. At least as of right now, it's really chop season over the weekend, in my opinion. Now, if we do come over to the weekly time frame, like I said, there's a lot of warning signs right now. This half diamond top formation, this BART pattern, this bear flag, a lot of things are telling us that we should be breaking down. And if we zoom out and look at the left side of the screen and look at the volume profiles, you can basically see we are in a big cluster of liquidity right now, which is probably why, if we look at the range that we're currently in, this is why Solana has been trading sideways the exact same price as it was 133 days ago. It is because we are in a huge cluster of liquidity. We spent lots of time trading here in 2021 before rushing to its all-time high. So there's a lot of volume here, there's a lot of liquidity here, there's a lot of trapped liquidity to the downside. And with that being said, as you can see, I've kind of encapsulated these different volume profile ranges. You can see when you fall into an area of red on these rectangular boxes, you're in an area where there's no liquidity. When there's no liquidity, no previous volume traded, you have very quick moves up, very quick moves up, and when you're ready, very quick moves down. So with that being said, we're sitting right above this red box right now. We're sitting in an area where there's lots of liquidity. If we come back over to the daily time frame, if you do see that break beneath $20, we're going to have very, very quick moves back down. Let me show you. So you can see with this red box, it was support, support. You found support right at the bottom of these volume profiles. Support, support, very quick moves up when you're in this area with lots of liquidity. As soon as you lost it over here on the 8th of March, like I said, not much volume traded here, very quick moves down. We can go back further. You can see once you lost it here, very quick moves down. This was, of course, in correlation to the whole FTX debacle as well. Nonetheless, if we look to the upside as well, when you're in this area where there's not much liquidity traded, you can have very quick moves up, very quick moves down. And of course, if we do lose $20, you will be having some very monumental moves back down to the downside for Solana. So with that being said, right now, kind of all eyes are round about this $20 range. If we do have a bounce, once again, like I said, I believe $21 is the cap on this. I might be entering some shorts if we do push up to $21. But to the downside, if you start breaking beneath $20, you're going to be invalidating this 4-hour bullish divergence. You're going to be breaking to the downside of this bear flag, and you're going to be falling into this danger zone where there's no liquidity that has been traded. Now, on the weekly time frame as well, if we do fall beneath $20, do bear in mind stochastic RSI on the weekly is turning down very, very strong. We have a lot of momentum pushing us to the downside right now, and on average, these moving averages are around about 36, and they pretty much move between 100 and 0, 100 and 0, 100 and 0. So with that being said, we've got quite a lot of room for the stochastic RSI to further capitulate us to the downside. The MFI right now is at 52, so lots of potential volume could outflow from Solana, pushing us further to the downside. And as we're in an area, as we're about to break into an area with little liquidity, it doesn't take much volume to rocket us down to the downside. So if we fall into an area where there's not much volume, very small orders have a large impact on the price. So little liquidity and high volume equals big moves in the market. And as the MFI right now is above the 52 line, above the heart line at 50, yeah, a little bit of volume can come in and push us down beneath $20. People can start selling and price will move down very, very quickly. Squeeze momentum indicator on the weekly time frame is still pushing dark green, indicative that we're about to break into a bearish trend coming into the red zone. So really the macro move down on the squeeze momentum indicator hasn't even started yet. The last time that we had a macro move bearish from weekly on the stochastic was right here. Let me move up this so you can see. We flipped bearish in the red right here, and as you can see, we moved into a bearish trend for a very, very long time before flipping bullish and then, you know, having this kind of rounding top formation. It looks like we're about to start a new macro trend. Bear in mind the squeeze momentum indicator is really a macro trend oscillator. You really want to be focusing on the lower time frames on things like the MFI right now and the stochastic RSI, letting us know in the immediate short term on the weekly we've got more room to move down. Now, since our last video, nothing has changed in terms of our price targets. We did highlight that the next major price target to keep your eyes on to the downside is this 618 Fibonacci at $15. We were predicting a 30% drop. We've only moved down about 5% or so. So, you know, we still do have approximately another 25% to go to the downside. Higher time frames, we're still witnessing this WXY double free structure playing out, where you've got two zigzag ABCs. You had from the bull run highs, ABC coming into wave W, then you had an ABC coming into wave X, then, you know, completing this wave Y, we should be having a final ABC. We've got a very clear breakdown into A, very clear dead cat bounce into B. We're still waiting for that final wave C, in which we think Solana is going to be coming all the way down to $5. Why do we think $5? Well, let's clear up the oscillators on this chart. Like we talked about previously, what happens when you fall into these red rectangular boxes where there's no liquidity traded? You have very quick moves up, very quick moves down. You fall into an area where there's lots of liquidity, you trend sideways, chop, 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 spend ages trading in these zones. You fall into one of these red boxes where there's little liquidity, very quick moves up and very quick moves down depending on whether you're bullish or bearish. With that being said, if we fall back beneath $20, where are we going to head to? We're going to head to this area where there's tons of liquidity in the market. Between round about $5 is where the start of these volume profiles is, and the most amount of volume in the markets is kind of right around this $2 region. Now, I want to take things one price target at a time. I'm not predicting $2. I am predicting, you know, $4.50/$5, which is a psychological level. We also do have a wick up here at pretty much exactly $5. So with that being said, $5 is really the price target I want to keep my eyes on. In terms of other charts for Solana against different pairs, Sol BTC is getting destroyed right now. This is going to be a leading indicator for Bitcoin. It has rejected from its 7786 on the weekly, and it is just bleeding out much more than Sol USD. So this could potentially be showing us that Sol USD is probably going to do something like this, come down to its 618 lollygag, and then break down just like Sol BTC is doing. Sol ETH is also bleeding out pretty bad right now. We are absolutely melting. And in terms of the on-chain metrics, I wanted to talk about what's happening over here quickly. So like I said at the start of the video, we are seeing the number of new addresses on the Solana network rocket up right now. In fact, as of the time of recording, these are lying round about 315,000 new addresses, and if you come up to the all-time high, you can see this is 429,000. If we look at year to date, you can see we're having a parabolic run to the upside in terms of the new addresses on Solana. So what does this mean? Are lots of new users hopping on the Solana network? Are we seeing an increase in staking? Are we seeing an increase in transactions? Are transactions and liquidity coming back to Solana? Is, you know, particularly liquidity on chain coming back? Are people buying more NFTs? What's going on? Well, if we scroll down and look at the value moved on chain, you can see this is pretty much all-time lows. In fact, if we come over to what's happening in the past 3 months, we've pretty much just made new bear market lows. Year to date, we have had a slight move up, but in terms of all time, you know, if we look at all time on the amount of value moved on chain, we are pretty much at the all-time lows. I mean, what's happening in 3 months is, you know, we're moving up slightly. If we come over to all time, since the bull run top, we've just been absolutely losing so much liquidity in the market. So if there's all these new users on chain, why are we not seeing a big increase in active addresses on the network? Why are we not seeing an increase in terms of value moved on chain? Are people making accounts but not using them? Are people making accounts not moving any liquidity on chain? Are people making accounts and not buying NFTs? Well, if we scroll up, we can see something quite interesting. If we look at the non-vote transactions on the Solana network, now, if you don't know what these mean, basically vote transactions are submitted by validators for network consensus, and non-vote transactions are, for example, when you're purchasing Sol, you're transferring Sol between different wallets, smart contracts. So for example, if you've got an NFT and you can stake that NFT for a token, or if you're purchasing an NFT from Magic Eden, you're creating a non-vote transaction, because vote transactions are for validators for network consensus. So what's interesting is if we look at the current TPS, the current transaction breakdown, you can see this histogram chart, and these are the vote transactions. There's a lot of vote transactions right now, and the non-vote transactions are very, very small. I mean, the non-vote transactions right now are just less than half of the actual vote transactions, meaning that just around a third of the total transactions on Solana right now are non-vote transactions, and 2/3 of these transactions are vote transactions for validators trying to find network consensus. This is why we're seeing the non-vote transactions on the Solana network. If we come over to the all-time high, or if we come over to the all-time chart rather, these are pushing down. These are almost coming down to new bear market lows. So while we're seeing an increase in new addresses, we're not seeing an increase in the active addresses. We're not seeing an increase in terms of the non-vote transactions. So this is likely correlating to an increase in validators. This is likely correlating to an increase in validators having separate addresses for different validating stacks. So that's really what I wanted to highlight. While we are seeing an increase in new addresses, we're not seeing an increase in terms of network activity. The number of active addresses is extremely weak right now. Once again, coming over to the all-time, you can see this has basically just been bleeding out ever since. Value is not being moved on chain with these new active addresses. So this is very likely to be correlating to this massive increase that we're seeing right now in vote transactions for validators. So I just really wanted to let you know what's happening on chain right now. Some of these metrics are leaning bullish if you don't understand the fundamentals of what is happening with the rest of these. So I just wanted to let you know, while we're seeing an increase in the number of new addresses, these addresses are not active. These addresses are predominantly vote transactions. And because of this, we're not seeing new liquidity flow in. We're not seeing more value coming in on chain. And these addresses aren't particularly active whatsoever. They're probably just firing one transaction every epoch between different validators. So with that being said, my friends, that is pretty much all I've got for the on-chain. Most of the Solana right now is being actively staked. So, people aren't particularly buying NFTs right now, selling NFTs. If you look at the volume on things like Magic Eden, obviously since the bull run highs, as we've been looking with the value moved on chain, these are pretty low right now. So there's not a lot of movement happening on the Solana chain. Just wanted to let you know in terms of what's happening in the technicals. Once again, keep your eyes glued on $20. If we break to the downside of this, my price targets will be coming back down to $19.80 to fill this imbalance with the liquidity. And to the downside from there, if we do look, we do have some volume support around about $15. We gave you price targets for the bear flag around about $16. And if we start heavily falling beneath $20, it's very likely that we very, very quickly move down to $5, a lot quicker than some people think. So for today, my friends, that's all I've got. If you do enjoy my content on Solana, as always, let me know down below by leaving a like and a comment. Share the videos with your friends. If you want more of these posts regarding on-chain metrics, let me know in the comment section down below. If you want to further support the channel, feel free to click the join button and become a member today. Follow me over on Twitter at 618_cowboy. I'll leave it here. It's been your boy Cowboy Trades. I'm out. Peace.